On this episode, we recap 2025 in music. And if you want to hear what I thought was the best music and some of the best artists that we heard throughout the year, stick around. This is All Gas, No Trash. My name is Adam, and welcome back to the program. Welcome to a brand new episode. And before we get underway, we do have to do the Game Rage No Curse Minute, where we kill the first 60 seconds of the program in order to play nice with the YouTube algorithm. As usual, I want to give a quick thanks to everybody that has been listening on RSS, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you've been listening. We sincerely appreciate it, especially those that have been listening on YouTube. Liking, commenting, and subscribing, it is much appreciated, especially those that have subscribed to our channel. We are officially at 140 subscribers, which is an inconceivable number to think about, with so much work that we've put into making episodes and not knowing if people were listening. But we sincerely appreciate everybody that has been helping us in our journey with just listening and subscribing to our channel, sharing their thoughts. We sincerely appreciate it. I said that enough times already, but this turned out to be a lengthy Game Rage Magazine No Curse Minute, but had to get that all out, and that'll be the Game Rage No Curse Minute. To start off the episode, we do have to do a bit of an introduction to summarize 2025, not only for ourselves, but also music of the last 12 months. I feel that this was a huge personal victory for myself and Josh, who has been on an extended hiatus for reasons I do not want to explain right now, but he will be back at some point. Just don't know when that'll be. Anyways, this was a big year for us in terms of growing the channel from the start of the year, not knowing if we would have any success with YouTube. We were mainly just concentrating on releasing episodes on RSS and having them distributed out to digital streaming platforms and stuff. But this year, we really buckled down. I buckled down on understanding YouTube, how to use the YouTube Studio platform to increase our viewership and also our subscribers, or just learning little bits as we went along throughout the year. And I think a huge thing for us was figuring out the thumbnail game. I think for starters, the thumbnail game is really important when it comes to music. And yes, I will admit that when we initially started, I was thinking along the lines of trying to make them kind of memey and somewhat hilarious, but using pop culture references. I think that was kind of misguided in hindsight, because what I started to realize is that people, when it comes to talking about artists, especially for people that are watching videos about their favorite artists or discovering new artists, that it is very important for the thumbnail to be recognizable to them. So it dawned on me that I should be including the album artwork, the cover art for singles, EPs, albums, what have you, in addition to the artists themselves. Whether we were making album reviews or just talking about new artists, I thought it was vital to make it recognizable to the viewer to see that from the thumbnail. Even though we don't have any video playing, it is strictly an audio experience. I thought it was extremely important to make that clear from the get-go. And from that point, it seemed like we were having success. If it was varying degrees of success, I think it was a turning point for us to have people at least check out our videos and, eventually start listening to them. Because yes, at the beginning, I mean, people were only paying attention a couple minutes at a time. It wasn't much, but now we've shortened up our episodes, made them extremely accessible, made them a simple listen. It's not an hour commitment that you have to listen to the program. It's shorter, it's sweeter, and it gets to the point. And that has been a real difference in the viewer experience, I imagine it's, more favorable to you who may not have a whole lot of time to learn more information about different artists or to check out new music and stuff like that. But yeah, so those, if I had to summarize what I basically have already talked about, adding thumbnails, making thumbnails compelling to check out, making them recognizable to people to see artists that they are new to, but understanding that this is new information or new music that they're releasing, I thought was extremely important, and it seems like it's contributed to our success. In addition to that, the shortening of episodes has also helped, because previously, for the last year, or rather, when we started in 2023 and into 2024, we were making, I think, 30-minute episodes at minimum, probably leading to 60 minutes and above. And in hindsight, that probably wasn't the best, especially when we're still very early on in our journey trying to capture an audience and trying to figure out our footing and our style and our personal identity for this podcast. So, I would rather have things be more bite-sized and truncated and getting to the point quicker than having lengthy episodes. And at this point, I don't even think I can make a 60-minute episode, because otherwise I think it'd be fillers. So I'm glad it worked out this way. I'm glad that I have come up with the answers through the pain, the growing pains of making a podcast. And am I perfect? Absolutely not. I don't think I am close to perfect. I don't think I have the podcast voice. I don't think I oftentimes am extremely self-conscious about what I do. Although if there was one thing that I feel somewhat confident in, is that I love music so much that I am actively trying to find new things to talk about on a weekly basis, and even to come up with 5 or 10 minutes for an episode every Sunday to post on Monday. It has been a large task, and I have largely succeeded in releasing episodes every Monday for the last 12 months, and it's been extremely rewarding to just be consistent in that regard. And I'm not really paying attention to the views and subscribers. Yes, I check every now and then to see that we're making progress and seeing that we're going somewhere. But truly, I have to believe that this is more of a personal journey for myself to really stretch my limits on what I can find out there, whether it's here in Southern California or other parts of the world. I'm really trying to find what is out there and sharing it with you guys. So, as far as the podcast itself, I would conclude that it is largely been a success in terms of the progress, in terms of metrics that we've made, and just personal growth. I think between those two things, the metrics and personal growth, I feel like I've come a little bit closer to understanding myself and what type of voice I've had. And I'm trying to think of other things that have stood out to me while making this podcast. I guess one other thing that's worth mentioning is that I had made numerous predictions throughout the year about different artists and bands, and one specifically was Jelly Haha. And yes, we were late to the fact that the single that she released, I maybe was 6 or 7 days late after the fact that Travis Holcomb had played her on KCRW, and now having known the lore that he was keeping in contact with Deluxe to talk about this artist and learn more about her, and eventually getting her single to play on his program. It is rather a bit of a tragedy to see that KCRW has gotten rid of the 4 or 5 DJs that were released in the past couple months, including Travis Holcomb, and to see a post made by the KCRW music account or KCRW account and have Jelly Haha be the breakout artist for the year. It must sting or be salt in the wounds of Travis Holcomb to see the artist that he brought in by his own volition, by his own sources, be the breakout artist for KCRW when he probably did all of the legwork for that, and now KCRW is getting all the credit for that. And I think that's just a spit in the face. But aside from that, the things that happened afterwards from the first single, I had made the predictions that I believed that Jelly Haha would be playing at Viva Pomona Fest, and it happened last month. In addition to that, I also made the prediction that she would also play with Magdalena Bay, and that also happened. And my third prediction that is pending is I believe she will end up at Coachella. And if you want to find out those reasons of why I believe so, you can go ahead and check out our playlist of Jelly Haha, or just go through our library of videos to check out everything related to Jelly Haha to get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, we made numerous predictions about different artists and bands, including Rio Costa, whom I believed were capable of doing some fantastic things. And lo and behold, they also were featured at Viva Pomona Fest. They've also been added to the FIFA soccer game soundtrack. In addition to that, they've also had their music synced to Target, the large retail store that everybody knows from the US and all that stuff. So they just have continued to exceed people's expectations. It's just been a very fun year in music with the numerous artists that have come onto the scene. It's just it's kept me busy. It's fun speculating on their future. I know I have this thing of sizing them up, kind of like fantasy football sleepers, if you all are familiar with that term, but I can't help myself. I love talking about music and discovering music to the point that I will look at the community around an artist, what kind of work ethic they have, how they are presenting the project to give an evaluation of what I think their future might be. And so far, I think I've made some pretty accurate predictions. And if you want to see those predictions, check out our past episodes. Anyways, one thing I would like to transition over to, or something I'd like to transition over to, is talking about some of the failures that we've had on this podcast. For starters, one thing that happened recently that bothered me to no end was Swords releasing her single called Finally Found. Now, this is a track that I was pretty excited for from the get-go, from when she teased it on Instagram to some of the clips that were in anticipation of the song being released, snippets of the music video. I had posted a lot about that on my Instagram stories, and eventually when the song releases, it wasn't perfect. I think the most interesting bit of the song is the intro, which gives me a lot of it has the vibes of Oblivion from Grimes from that album I can't remember the name of. But overall, it was the feeling that the song gives, that it just had potential in the same way that people felt about Grimes way back in the 2010s. So when I had posted about Swords on my Instagram profile, I wasn't really receiving a whole lot of reactions or any type of messages about what they liked about the music. So I was just under the impression that they just outright didn't like the music. And therefore, I had doubt in my own taste in music to the point that I just avoided making an episode the week that single was released. I come to find out 2.5 months later that Swords' song, Finally Found, had become her number one song on Spotify with 1 million. At this point, it's probably 1.5 million or 1.5 million streams. And I don't know what happened, but her Instagram profile had quadrupled or quintupled. And I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it bothered me to no end to doubt myself and just stick to my intuition. Even though I wasn't too high on Finally Found, I knew that there was something about that track. It just ate me up. So one thing I'm going to be doing going into 2026, I am going to stick to my intuition regardless of whatever seeds of doubt are planted within my mind. If I feel a certain type of way about an artist, I think I'm going to I'm going to stick to it. One other failure that I was having was I don't feel as though I discovered enough music this year. And I think I've found a solution for that where within this year, I felt like I was turning to the same sources to find out about different albums and different artists and stuff. And I was really trying to push myself these last couple of months. I think I kind of had a breakthrough with Spotify. I don't want to say exactly the method or my own internal algorithm of how I'm going to be searching for music, but I will say that in the month of November, I completely avoided social media and was strictly looking at Spotify for whatever reason, because there is some tools or some features that help you discover music, including the For You page, or there's like these Instagram story things that they have featured on Spotify. I've been checking those out to get a glimpse of an artist, 15, 30 seconds of whatever song they have released. And it doesn't work to perfection because so often you'll see the same artist cycle through every time you're swiping and stuff like that. So it's not perfect in that regard. And that is not even the solution that I've come up with or the method in which I will be discovering music in 2025. But what I will say is, I personally feel that Spotify is trying to tell you or guide you in the direction of what new artists to be paying attention to. And the answer is in each artist or band's profile. And that's all I could say. It's not about the stream numbers. It's looking... See, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. But there is something within the Spotify profile or the band profile that I have been looking at to lead me to other artists. And no, it is not the recommended artists or similar artists that are listed at the bottom of a band's profile, but it's something similar. And as such, I've been finding a lot more music. Is it all good? Probably not. I mean, but nonetheless, it has been helpful to find so many more artists as a result of doing this thing. And, I don't have the luxury of having deep connections with people within the music industry for me not to be a promoter or even somebody that is a talent buyer or, things like that. I think that stifles me to some degree, but I think this thing is extremely helpful. The thing I'm going to be doing in 2026 consistently, because it has stopped me from making episodes to some degree. I mean, I think 90% of the time in 2025, I was making a bunch of episodes, but there were also times where there was a lull and there was nothing to talk about. And, I had gone through all the sources that I usually use to find music and stuff like that. But there were instances where I felt like I needed to talk about artists as opposed to doing album reviews. And I don't know what the ratio of doing album reviews is to talking about news surrounding bands and even discovering new bands, but I just felt like I didn't do enough discovery, even though I did have I felt like I still had a pretty good year, but I also felt like I could have done more. And hopefully this solution that I have will remedy that, where I can find artists more consistently and talk about them, throughout the month, throughout the first 6 months of the year and the last 6 months of the year. I just hope that this will afford me the opportunity to be more consistent on the aspect of music discovery. So I know that is very vague to talk about, but I don't want to give away what that thing is, because if I am to have a competitive edge, if there is any bit of competitive edge that I have within this podcast, I don't want to give it away. So I'll just leave it at that. So in addition to that, I think one other shortcoming that I had this year was there were a lot of episodes that I didn't end up making because I didn't like the album from an artist or whatever it might have been. I ultimately decided not to make an episode, and I think I kind of shoot myself in the foot by doing that if I feel like it's not worthy of being on the podcast. There is something to be said about just making the episode anyways and creating content for that artist anyways, whether I am in love with the music or don't like something about the artist themselves. At least it is a resource made for the artist, whether it's good or bad. It is out there, and whether I like it or not is irrelevant. Hopefully it draws more attention to them. Hopefully the adamant fans tell me I'm wrong and all this shit, and it works out in that way where it's a piece of content that it hopefully gets trashed and creates more engagement for the artist and all that crap. But there, as I said before, there were instances where I think I neglected artists, and maybe next year I'll try a little bit harder to be open-minded and do an album review of an album I'm not all that enthusiastic about, but just want to follow through on things. I think that's something I definitely need to work on going in 2026. And maybe I'm trying to think of other things that I worked on throughout the year that kind of popped up, but that might be it. If I come up with anything else, I'll be sure to include it at the very end of the episode. But let's go ahead and transition over to some of the things that I enjoyed in 2025 from the top 5 albums that I was really enthusiastic about, in addition to the top 25 songs. And there won't be any lengthy, rosy words shared about each song. I'm just going to go ahead and list the things that I thought stood out in 2025. Again, talking about the top 25 songs that I heard throughout the year, in addition to the top 5 albums. And then I think I might have something along the lines of a artist of the year thing. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go ahead and get underway with the top 25 songs of 2025. The top 5 albums I listened to in 2025, in addition to the artist of the year for 2025. And I do want to preface in saying that the top 5 albums are in no particular order, because I tried my best trying to rank them and I just couldn't. So I would rather just see them in equal regard. So to start off, for the top 25 songs that I heard in 2025, we have Mountaintop from Rio Costa, The Bow or Bow, I don't know which one it is, but we'll say both. The Bow or The Bow from Nice off of their album called Nice World. And then we have Split from Pixel Grip from their third album called Percepticide. The Way from Wilson off of her second album called Bloom. Lil Obsession from Boy Soda's debut album. John from the enigmatic group known as John was another top track for me. Bounce House from Jelly Haha. Julia from Don West. Tora Moyo from May Simone. Nina Geraci with iPod Touch. Bad Choice from Juana Rosas. Dim from Dreary. Sonar from Ichiko Aoba. Rockstar Baby from Scuzzland. Metal Dress from Sophie O. Chasing the Moon from Fifi Zhang. Love Scat from Or the Molecule. Futari from Zamia. On to Something from Public Figures. Anhedonia from Mama Larky. Pirate Radio from Genesis Owusu. Dangerous from Cali Sway. Women Respond to Bass from Sextile. Endlessly from Chanpan. Woos with Sabertooth Spider. Those were the top 25 songs that I heard And now we transition over to talking about the top 5 albums that I listened to in 2025 in no particular order. Starting off with Nice with their debut album called Nice World. Followed by Pixel Grip with Percepticide, The Death of Reality, the third album in their discography. Followed by Wilson with her second album called Bloom, which just came out of nowhere. I was not expecting this album to be as good as it was, far exceeding the debut album of Don West, which was also in the soul genre spectrum. Just after that, we have Rio Costa with their album called Unicorn, which was just a psychedelic, perception altering album to listen to. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. And for all these albums that I just mentioned, we do have reviews available on our YouTube channel that you can search up and give a listen to find out what the scores were, or the scores that we gave for the album. And lastly, this one I just had to include simply for the fact that I think May Semonet is a genius to combine bossa nova, jazz, and math rock with... I couldn't believe she managed to meld all these things to perfection, to have them work so synchronously together. I loved Animaru. May Semonet with her album called Animaru, which is her debut album. I fucking love that thing to pieces, and I had it to include it in our list, and I think Wait, I can't say the score. That's something you have to look up if you want to check out what score we gave it. But I gave it high praise, and I believe we gave it a high score. So those are the top 5 albums that I listened to in 2025. Lastly, if there were an artist of the year, I believe I have to give that to Pixel Grip, not only for releasing their third album, which may not have been released altogether because of the fact that the band had essentially broken up in the last couple years and managed to rise from the ashes and be the beautiful phoenix that they are, to come together and decide to make music once more. I was really enthralled with the Percepticide album to the point that I thought some of the things that happened around them were really exciting, including getting into a small bit of beef with Travis Scott for them using one of the songs off of Arena, their second album, although I forgot what song it was that they used. I think it was Pursuit, but we made episodes about it in the past if you want to check those out as well. But to create such a stink to the point that they were featured on a local television station in Chicago, and also to have their verbal exchanges on Instagram to the point that deadmau5 wanted to get involved, and also getting recognized by Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. This is something that I talked about on previous episodes that we've made about Pixel Grip. I don't know what it was that I said. I think I said something along the lines of that I could see Pixel Grip being in the line of work of scoring films, especially like sci-fi horror or thrillers. I just felt like they were capable of doing something along the lines of what Trent Reznor has been doing in recent memory with scoring films and such, especially with something like with what he did for Watchmen, the HBO series. I think Pixel Grip is very much capable of that, and for them to be recognized by Trent Reznor himself, that just felt like an affirmation for me that I thought they were on the right path, and hopefully they will continue that. But I don't think there was an artist that I personally felt that had a bigger year than Pixel Grip, and I'm just very happy for them to not only get the compensation that they deserve from Travis Scott and get recognized by Trent Reznor, but to have this superb album that came out in Percepticide, The Death of Reality. Oh man, I've been a big fan of this band since like 2020 or 2019 roughly. Yeah, I mean, I tried to it's hard for me to remember exactly what had happened, but I do remember going on their Bandcamp, looking at their live set at the Mocha, which included songs that would eventually be released on Arena. But yeah, I've just been a very adamant fan of theirs for quite some time, and to see them have their success has just been very cool to see. So I personally felt that they were the artist of the year for me, and that more or less wraps up the segment of the best of 2025, including the top 25 songs that I heard in 2025, in addition to the top 5 albums and the artist of the year, which was Pixel Grip. And lastly, let's go ahead and conclude the episode. To conclude the episode, I felt as though 2025 had brought on a lot of great music, and especially a lot of debuts, including debut albums and debut of artists, including Jelly Haha, Don West, technically, I guess, with his debut album, and Nice World. Just a lot of awesome music that I have been consistently listening to throughout the year. And I do have the slightest bit of fear and doubt that things could ever be this good in 2026. But I personally believe the methods in which I will be discovering music going forward will hopefully, be fruitful in finding new artists to talk about and delivering more consistent on episodes. Hopefully there won't be any gaps, with the exception of holiday breaks and things like that. But I think I am very proud of the fact that I was diligent about releasing 2 or 3 episodes throughout the year, whether Josh was here or not, finding new ways to make thumbnails to make them more appealing and recognizable to viewers and listeners, whether you're listening on RSS or even on YouTube, or especially YouTube. I felt like I've created a lot of answers for myself in the doing of this podcast, and I hope that continues, especially recently with the music discovery aspect of the podcast. And I'm just very much looking forward to what 2026 has to offer, and I know I will be ready. I'm already excited to find or discover new artists. I'm just hoping that they're out there, and I'm hoping that they're local to Southern California so I can see them myself. But whether that is the case or not, I'm just excited for music in general across the world. Whether you're from Norway, Argentina, or even Australia, or some part of Asia, whether that's South Korea, Japan, Thailand, or whatever, I'm always trying to find new music and share it with you. And hopefully you've had a good experience in enjoying this program, and hopefully you have become new fans of the artists and bands that we've talked about. And well, I don't want to ramble anymore, so once again, this is the final episode of All Gas No Trash in 2025. I hope you've had a great experience listening to our program, and I can't wait to see you in 2026, which is just a couple days away. And anyways, that is the conclusion of the episode. I'll catch you all next time.